What's up, you crazy strength ninjas, and welcome to training. And the clickbait title of this video is not clickbait. I'm going to show you how to blast off the body mastery at warp speed. And I think it's something that you can do this year. And I'm not going to show you some sort of goofy flow series like some sort of online fitness influencer. I'm going to show you 4 critical elements you need to start incorporating today. And I've done this for over 30 years and for over 5,000 students, most of whom are actually better than a lot of those online influencers, even the beginner ones. So let's dive in. The first thing is this: strength. We're going to start with strength because strength is sexy. Strength helps you in so many critical elements of your life, and it speeds up your metabolism, the more muscle that you put on. It empowers you to do all of the strength, skill, and sustainability, all of your activities and hobbies and everything else. And so we're going to start right down here on the floor, no equipment necessary. And we're going to start in a frog squat. And then we're going to start developing upper body strength. And the way that I look at strength is I look at it full body. Every element, every aspect of training should be full body. And so we're starting off in this full squat position. We want to put the hands wider than shoulder width. Coming down at this angle here, we want to use the toes to start toggling the ground. Now, I understand it might be difficult or uncomfortable to get into this low position, which is going to be the second element of training. And we'll get into that in just a second. But the first thing that we're going to focus on, like I said, is building the strength. And so this position is where we start everybody off. Oftentimes, we'll start people in static horse stances. We'll come down to frog stance. We'll be holding these for 30 seconds, 60 seconds within rounds of training, as well as the frog stand for upper body. Now, I choose to start looking at the upper body because your legs have to be engaged in order to do this move. You have to have your hip mobility. We'll talk about that as its own component in just a second. But everything is working together. And so this is the one most important basic for upper body strength, even before weights, before anything else. And then as you build this rhythm, you're able to start having a conversation here. Hang out in this position for long static holds, which is kind of the first piece of the strength puzzle that nobody talks about. Static holds, and they are pulling. Now, I understand it is much easier to just go to the gym and do your sets and reps of your bench press, your military press, your dumbbell flies, your lat pull downs, do your sets, do your reps, go home, no thinking. But I am telling you that whenever you start training holistic strength that requires the whole body to work together to develop this, it's night and day, literally night and day. So this is the first piece: building the shoulder, building the triceps, building the wrists. A lot of people have wrist pain, elbow pain, shoulder pain. The things that expose the weak links are oftentimes the things that also fix the weak links. And so we start every single person on the horse stance, then the frog squat, and I'm going into the frog stand, and then learning how to lift up and come up to the elbows, and then floating. And imagine however much you weigh, and holding that up overhead. Now, it's not quite that much. There's some percentage off because of the arms, or you're not holding your own arms, really. But that amount of weight, with that amount of control, the legs engaged, the core engaged, the shoulders, arms, everything else. And starting with static holds. Only after you've built a base of static strength should you then start going into other positions that require a bit more dynamic movement. But you don't have to completely refrain from the dynamic movement because we do everything simultaneously with that holistic aspect in mind. So that is the first piece, is the strength. Again, 30-second holds, 60-second holds, up to 2 minutes, even 5 minutes. Horse stance, strong squat, even here, 30, 60 seconds, like this here. Then going up from there. Oftentimes, though, people will go straight to the wall and start doing their handstand on it up. And I don't like that for beginners. I like that tactile getting in there, really working with the movement and listening to the body and starting to really understand what's going on. And nothing beats that more than the static training does, because that's all you can do. Your mind is going to fight against you. It's going to try to break form, get out of position, say, what are you doing? This is silly, or you don't have what it takes. And it's going to talk to you in all these different ways. And that's where you really get in there and do the real important work. Most people nowadays, they can't even slow down. They can't even sit still for 30 seconds straight. Imagine holding a frog stamp for 30 seconds or a minute. It changes things on the inside. And that's the real foundation of strength right there. And then in order to really access a lot of that strength. So imagine we want to build flares, okay? Flares like this, or a planche, building strength, like a planche. So flexibility is the second piece of this puzzle. Think about it like 4 quadrants, okay? We talked about strength as one piece, and these all tie together. And so the next one is flexibility. And this one works synergistically with strength. If you do not have flexibility, you will not become as strong as you otherwise could. Many people, again, they'll go and use the mainstream methods. And yes, I do dog on the mainstream methods because people stay stuck there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, their whole lives even. And then they're wondering why they feel the way they do, why they have the injuries, the chronic things that they do, why they don't feel good. Because it's this mainstream, very, very basic, almost remedial in some way, form of training. So if we get away from that, then we start looking at, so the weightlifting. Let's say people get really, really strong, even in those lifts, and they're doing certain lifts that require certain ranges of motion. Okay, they could be super strong, 300 plus pound benches, 500 plus pound squats. Every angle degree that they are tight in, though, that they cannot move. Let's just say, knee up and coming down this way. Let's just say here. All these different positions are areas that strength is builds. Imagine architecture, or where you're building out a wall, and then you're putting spackling in, and you're reinforcing the seams and the joints using joint compound, or you're doing that with something more industrially sound like concrete, and you're reinforcing all those areas and pieces. That's the whole idea with flexibility. You're actually opening up those areas so that you can then reinforce it with more strength. And so the person that's more flexible will actually be stronger than the person that looks stronger by appearance or by how heavy their lifts are or whatever else they're doing. And then you could transfer that to any other activity. And so oftentimes people that are strong weightlifters and everybody else that's doing the mainstream methods, then they go to a high dynamic sport or a hobby or doing something on the weekends and they get injured because they're not reinforcing all those other pieces. So another one that we start everybody off on for flexibility is the splits. And look at this, we're going to start at the horse stance, okay? So as we do a horse stance is so important. And I challenge you guys to do that. See if you can hold it for 3 minutes straight. But this is how I get out to it. Nice distance, arms are like this and so on. You guys have probably seen this in other videos. But just here requires the hip mobility. Knees are oftentimes very in, rounding of the back, kind of, we want to push those knees out. A little bit of toe flare is okay. But here's actually where the split starts, because we have to be able to come down here to grab the ground, right? Fingertips at first. Sometimes people will get down like this. You want to sit down into that horse stance, build that flexibility out, start getting lower, and then start sliding the feet out from there. And once again, just like the static strength, this is even strength building. Don't be mistaken. Flexibility is a form of strength training. Otherwise, things would just fall apart. But everything is working together to hold everything together at the same time that it's being stretched. So you are gaining strength through your flexibility training in certain ways. Now, a person that's just sitting in passive stretching all of the time, they're going to be loose and gumby, and they're going to be prone and susceptible to injury. People that are only doing yoga, no resistance training, people that are only doing flexibility work and a lot of cardio, they're going to be in a bad category. But this is what we start everybody with, getting those splits. And then there's a bunch of other flexibility pieces like bridges and lotus and everything else. But I want to focus on the splits because I really haven't in a lot of the other videos that I've done so far. So for here, we're coming down here. First thing that we want to do is be able to comfortably get the palms down like this. And then we want to start locking those legs out. Now watch, I'm going to show you a second version of flexibility here. Okay, flexibility training for strength. The leg iron cross. And again, those static holds in that position. One of my workouts for the leg iron cross was, this is how we step up into sets of reps. But I would hold a 25-pound plate, and then I would come out, and I would hold it, and I would slide all the way down, and then walk it back up, and I would do 5 sets of 5 like that. So talk about leg conditioning in the ways that people are completely neglecting. And so that's just one little example. There's hundreds of other pieces that you can just start stacking onto your body, reinforcing your joints, making yourself flexible and strong in ways that you never realized. And the people that don't do it, those are the ones that are complaining about age, even in their 20s. I've heard people in their mid-20s use that expression, that's a young man's game. Really, coaches and we were having a conversation just yesterday, as a matter of fact. Here at the gym right now, I thought I'd shoot this, but we're talking about that and just this idea of like children being very, very overprotected within the institutions of life, and then the teenage category sort of being an invented thing, and then then all of a sudden there's this like small window, and then all of a sudden everyone's too old to do anything. The reason for that mentality, well, deeper than just your fitness training, but the reason for feeling that way, feeling the age, feeling the aches or pains, the chronic stuff, feeling tired all the time, not able to move, is because of the fact that things are so neglected. And then you're going into this sort of mainstream kind of workout that just, hits things that, okay, keep people getting back to the office. And that's fine if that's what they want to do. More power to them. I do want to maintain this and help other people maintain this level for a long time and just feel really good. So that's the splits, okay? So we've got our flexibility and our strength now. So we're stacking in terms of that quadrant. So the third piece of the quadrant now is going to be utilizing the strength and the flexibility simultaneously. And so this is where we start to add some dynamics, some movement, some speed, some things where, again, that is where people get tripped up. That is where the injuries occur and they just don't feel good. And the discoordination, that coordination, not feeling like you have the confidence to kick up into a handstand. You want to be able to do that. You want to have physical freedom, okay? All of the financial freedom in the world, all of the comforts of life, all of those things are meaningless if you don't have physical freedom, the ability to move with power. So let's look at a couple of different areas of mobility where we combine some of the aspects that we talked about today. So let's just look at something similar, okay? Chopping to a horse stance, coming down, balancing. And then I want to show you the next part from a different angle here. But jumping up the horse stance, coming up, balance, pushing back, then turning over, coming back. Now watch this. Legs past the hands into what's called the Stalder squats. Lots of mobility just in that small sequence of moves from our foundation level training, where people, they pass through foundation and all of a sudden they're just a couple of months into training and they're always it's night and day. And then we just finished our Alaska workshop, and one of our students, Israel, phenomenal. And within 7-8 months, he'd never been athletic, never did anything like this. 7-8 months, already doing planches and press handstands. So good for him. And that's the kind of, he's 48. And that's the kind of progress that you can expect to have whenever you start applying these elements I'm talking about to you right now in this video. So once again, just looking at a different view here. So we go to horse stance, hands down, frog, press. I want to do this a little faster. So I want to turn like that, okay? Then do up to the stalder squat. Skip jack a little bit, show it again. Horse stance, hands down, frog, press, around. Then stalder squat. And a stalder, of course, is going to get to the point where we can balance like this with strength and flexibility. That's moving. So that's where that mobility starts to happen. Now, the fourth component of training that's going to blast you off to body mastery at warp speed is going to be skills. This is where everything ties together. This is where speed starts to accumulate into power, force, and just feeling good and being able to move however you want to move. So I got a little box here, and you can use anything for this. But I did want to show something that's a little cooler with the equipment. I will show it on the floor though, okay? Let's start off, and this is going to be a little different angle, but we're going to come in here and we're going to be rotating into this frog squat, and the hands are going to come down, and you see how these are coming. These movements are coming from building all the way up through the trajectory of this video. So we wouldn't be able to really do anything, do this well if we didn't have all those other pieces. So we can turn the hands, and then we can lean into this, and then we can bring the body all the way around in a 360. Now, why would you want to do this? Why would you want to be able to move like that? Sometimes people ask in the comments or say childish remarks and just silly things. You shouldn't even talk about it, but you know, why should we be able to move like this? Why not? Why would you not want to have the recovery time of Wolverine, the strength of Captain America, the mobility of Spider-Man? If you could have that in life to be able to move through this world. I don't see any other alternative. That should be the baseline. So, sitting here, hands down, coming around. Yeah. It could be the situation that you find yourself in, maybe an obstacle race, maybe playing with your kids just on the ground, maybe just enjoying life, maybe gardening. Oh, there's a tool. Okay? Whatever it might be. It could be something even extreme athletic, like we're going to get into in a second. But having the strength, the movement, the coordination, the wherewithal, the calmness from doing the static training that transfers over to these other things. Now, let's look at what this translates into something pretty cool. And I don't usually talk about the free range component, which is one of the elements about Powerbatics about training. But we're going to do the same thing over this block. We're not going to touch the feet. We're not going to scrape. We're not going to go to the other side. We're just going to do like this. And palm spin right around that block with the strength and the mobility built all the way up through everything that we talked about in this video. And this is just a progression from the floor. 2 feet hitting, hands a little twisted, legs coming up and around, good hip mobility, the core strength to be able to hold ourselves. Then, if you play this slow motion, you'll see that this isn't a flip. This isn't an aerial. This is actually a handstand up over the block, and kind of that flying frog position that I went over in the very beginning of the video. So one more time. Okay? So a little palm spin. And that is just one skill of many, many more in Powerbatics. And remember, just combine those 4 pieces together. Your strength, your flexibility, your mobility, start working on skill, and you're going to blast off the body mastery and feel better than you ever have in your life. I'll see you guys in the next video and in training soon.